sun rose golden over Bangkok, spilling warmth across the skyline like honey over glass. But for Maya Brown, it was the coldest morning she'd ever known. Her fingers hovered above her laptop keyboard, trembling slightly. The numbers on the screen couldn't be real. They couldn't, but they were. 9 baht and 28 satang. That was the balance in the Brown Lotus corporate account. Not 9 million, not 9,000. 9 baht and 28 satang, roughly 25 US cents. She blinked hard, then again, refreshed the page. Nothing changed. Maya? Her assistant poked her head into the office, her soft voice unsure. The vendors are on hold again, and a delivery driver is waiting downstairs. Should I? Tell them I'll be right down, Maya murmured automatically. 10 minutes. As the door clicked shut, Maya stood from her desk like she was rising from rubble. The office was quiet. Too quiet. Normally, Lana would be playing a lo-fi playlist through her Bluetooth speaker, singing off-key while organizing shelves of sample jars. There'd be the scent of lemongrass and white tea in the diffuser, a laughing intern asking for toner samples, movement, life. But now, silence, absence. Maya opened the shared team app. She sent Lana a message. Lana, where are you? She waited. Nothing. She called. Straight to voicemail. Her stomach dropped. She checked her email next, scanning for clues. And there it was. An outgoing wire transfer to an offshore account. The full operational reserve. Approved under Crit Wichipong's signature. Her eyes widened. Crit? She clicked again. There were legal filings, documents she hadn't authorized, names of new board members, a corporate restructure she'd never signed. Maya's knees buckled slightly. She grabbed the edge of the desk to stay upright. No, 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 no. She picked up her phone with trembling fingers and called Crit. This number is no longer in service. The air thickened. She paced in a circle, then stopped. Her heart thudded. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. She pulled up the signed shareholder agreement. It was supposed to require both her and Lana's signatures for major decisions. But Lana's name was there too, under the new filing, dated 2 weeks ago. Maya, don't panic. Just breathe. Think. But thinking hurt worse than anything, because she knew what this meant. They hadn't just drained the account. They had rerouted ownership. Her company was gone. The next blow came in the form of a press release, a launch announcement from a new Thai beauty brand, complete with a slick new logo, Lana's face, and a soft pink branding palette that looked hauntingly familiar. The tagline, where heritage meets healing. Founded by the new face of clean Asian beauty, Lana Wichipong. Maya nearly dropped the phone. The voice in her head shouted, she stole it. Your formulations, your story, your slogan, everything you built together. And Crit? The signature on the bottom of the press release read, Chief Strategy Officer, Crit Wichipong. She felt her breath leave her body. By noon, the rumors had started. Investors were withdrawing, some out of fear, others out of doubt. An anonymous blog posted a screenshot of the drained account, claiming Maya had mismanaged funds and forced Lana to walk away. Her phone blew up with media inquiries, messages, confused customers, vendor, are you still in business? Former intern, wait, are the rumors true? Her mom via WhatsApp, baby, are you okay? I saw something online. Maya didn't respond to any of them. She sat in the center of her shattered office, surrounded by unsold products and broken silence. The air conditioner hummed like a lullaby for a corpse. Then came the final nail, a text from Lana. Lana, 1:26 p.m. Please don't try to contact me. It's already done. I didn't have a choice. Maya stared at the message for a long time. No apology, No remorse. Just a few words that sounded like a knife. She typed back, "Maya, you had every choice. You just chose yourself." But she didn't send it. Because something cracked inside her then. Deep and sharp and final. Outside, the monsoon clouds gathered without warning. Rain began to fall in thick, slanted streaks against the floor-to-ceiling windows. Bangkok's skyline blurred into gray. The storm was here. Maya walked toward the glass and pressed her palm to it. Her reflection stared back, eyes wide, mascara smudged, lips trembling, hair frizzed at the temples. This was not the woman who once landed a feature in Thailand. This was not the visionary founder who spent nights perfecting turmeric serum in a borrowed kitchen. This was not the girl who believed loyalty was stronger than ambition. This was someone else now. Someone ruined. No, not ruined. Reborn. Through clenched teeth, she whispered, "You took my business, but you don't get to take my name." She reached for her purse. The storm would rage, but so would she. Before the betrayal, before the press releases and the wire fraud, there was a rooftop in Chiang Mai. There, two young women sat barefoot, their faces glowing with sweat and lemongrass oil under the Thai sun. Maya held a ceramic bowl filled with a thick golden paste. Lana laughed as she dipped her fingers in it. "Girl, what is this?" "It's my grandmother's honey turmeric blend," Maya said with pride. "She used to rub it on my cheeks before Sunday service back in Georgia. Said it made my spirit shine brighter." Lana hummed, impressed. "And here, I thought your glow was just expensive moisturizer." Maya grinned, dipping a finger in. "Try it. But just a little. You're already golden." Lana tilted her head. "You always say stuff like that." "Stuff like what?" "Stuff that makes me feel seen." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city buzzed below, the smell of grilled pork skewers in the air, monks chanting somewhere in the distance. That day, Brown Lotus was born. Not as a business, as a promise. Their first apartment in Bangkok was a matchbox with cracked tiles and noisy neighbors, but it held magic. They blended balms and toners in the kitchen, labeling jars by hand with calligraphy pens and silk threads from the night market. Lana sketched out logo ideas late into the night, while Maya mapped out ingredients from both their cultures: West African black seed oil and Thai kaffir lime. Their motto was handwritten on the fridge with a sticky note: "Heritage heals. Roots remember." Maya pitched at investor meetings with her curls tied back in a low puff and a blazer too thick for Bangkok humidity. Lana translated in fluent Thai, leaning on connections her family barely knew she had. Together, they were unstoppable. But cracks always start quietly. In the second year, they landed a small partnership with a boutique hotel chain. It was a breakthrough, and it came with one condition: scaling up. They needed money, fast. Crit appeared like a gift. He was Lana's older cousin, charming, well-dressed, disarmingly polite. He walked into their cramped office with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes and a portfolio thick with stocks and property assets. "Your vision is beautiful," he said, running his finger along a sample jar of hibiscus mask. "But beautiful things die if they're underfed." "Let me feed it." Maya was hesitant. He was offering 500,000 baht, roughly $15,000, for a 15% stake. No voting rights, no board seat, just silent capital. He smiled when she hesitated. "You don't need to trust me. Trust her," he said, nodding toward Lana. "She's family." That was the first time Maya ignored her gut. The next few months blurred into success. With Crit's investment, they moved into a proper office space, bought better packaging, hired interns, launched their first limited skincare set. Brown Lotus landed on the homepage of an eco-beauty blog. Orders doubled. At night, Lana and Maya would sit in the office long after closing, barefoot on the hardwood floor, wine glasses in hand. "You think we'll ever sell?" Lana asked once. Maya shrugged. "Maybe, if we want to. But I didn't start this to flip it. I started it because nobody was making products that look like us." Lana sipped her wine, eyes unreadable. "Yeah, but sometimes I think about what it'd feel like to finally win." "We are winning." "Not enough," she murmured. Maya tilted her head. "Enough for what?" Lana didn't answer. Then came the second red flag. Maya walked into the office early one morning to find Crit sitting at her desk. Casual, comfortable, familiar in a way that made her skin crawl. "Hope you don't mind," he said with a crooked grin. "Needed to check some shipment numbers." "Why not ask me?" "I texted Lana." She said it was fine. Maya forced a smile and waited for him to leave. That night, she changed the passwords. The third red flag came in whispers. An intern overheard Crit on a call in the stairwell. Something about formulas and private copies. Maya asked Lana about it, half joking, half afraid. Lana waved it off. "Crit's just flashy, but harmless." Maya let it go. She didn't want to break the peace, didn't want to sound paranoid, didn't want to lose her only friend in a city that still sometimes stared at her like she didn't belong. And that was the real truth beneath it all. Maya loved Lana like a sister. She had stood by her during cultural misunderstandings, visa trouble, moments of homesickness that left Maya curled up on the balcony crying into her knees. When a potential client mocked Maya's Thai pronunciation in a meeting, Lana had fired back in flawless English. "Her accent isn't broken. It's just different. Like her. And that's why this brand is magic." Maya had believed it then. Believed her. Because some betrayals only work when love came first. Now, standing alone in the ruins of everything they'd built, Maya remembered that rooftop in Chiang Mai. The turmeric blend, the laughter, and that single haunting line, "You always say stuff that makes me feel seen." She never thought that same girl would steal her spotlight to finally feel visible. But ghosts never come with warning signs. They come with smiles. It wasn't the kind of email Maya expected to receive the morning after losing everything. Subject: urgent, private invitation. From Executive Office, Ratanakosin Group. Message: Ms. Maya Brown, you are requested for a private meeting with Santi Ratanakosin, effective immediately. Details below. She read it 3 times, then once more aloud, like the words might shift into something less absurd. Santi Ratanakosin, Thailand's elusive heir, rumored to be more shadow than man, running his father's empire with precision, disinterest, and no tolerance for fools. The Ratanakosin Group controlled retail, real estate, and a good portion of Bangkok's skyline. And now the son of the empire wanted a meeting. With her. Why? What did a tycoon's son want with a woman whose name was currently trending under hashtags like #skincare_scandal and #betrayed_boss_lady? Still, by 10:45 a.m., Maya found herself in the elevator of the Ratanakosin headquarters, heart pounding harder than it had when her company collapsed. The lobby was silent, elegant, a different world from her own. Polished stone, framed calligraphy, a soft floral scent that smelled like money. The receptionist bowed lightly. "This way, Ms. Brown." The conference room was empty, except for one man. He stood with his back to her, facing the Bangkok skyline. Tall, straight, composed. The navy suit he wore was custom, tailored sharp enough to make glass jealous. When he turned, Maya understood why people called him untouchable. Santi Ratanakosin. He didn't look like a tycoon's son. He looked like someone who had built the kingdom himself, brick by brutal brick. His expression was unreadable. Not cold, not kind, just still. "Ms. Brown," he said. His voice was low and deliberate, the kind that filled a room without force. Thank you for coming. I didn't come for thanks, Maya replied, crossing her arms. You didn't explain why I'm here. A faint flicker of amusement, just for a second, passed through his eyes. I don't explain myself often, but I'll make an exception. He gestured to the chair across the table. She stayed standing. Suit yourself, he said. He walked to a sleek leather folder and opened it with the ease of a man who never fumbled. Inside were documents, photos, screenshots of her company's downfall. Her lips tightened. So, what? Are you here to buy the wreckage? Pick up the scraps while they're still warm? No, he said. I'm here to offer you a lifeline. I don't want pity. This isn't pity. Then what is it? Santi looked at her for a long moment, then walked toward the window again. It's strategy, he said simply, and perhaps debt. Debt? He turned slowly. Crit Witchy Pong nearly conned my family 2 years ago. Maya froze. What? Santi nodded. He pitched a fake land development project, had forged environmental permits, and 2 fake co-investors. My father was minutes away from signing. I stopped it. Barely. She didn't speak. He continued. I wanted him blacklisted. But my father prefers quiet endings, and I prefer the long game. Now she understood. You're using me. His tone never changed. No, I'm offering you a hand. And in return? He stepped closer. Not invasive. Just enough for her to see that his eyes weren't empty. They were watching her, measuring. You rebuild your company. Under my protection, my funding, no strings, no shares. But one promise. Don't trust people like Crit ever again. She stared at him. Why? A pause. Then, because you still believe in the work. And that's rare. Maya's jaw flexed. You don't know me. I've read your product reports, listened to your investor calls, watched you pitch to rooms that didn't want to see your face, only your formulas, and you still smiled. That doesn't mean I'm not broken. Santi shrugged slightly. It means you're worth the investment. She paced, heart pounding. This doesn't make sense. You don't know me. You don't get involved in things like this. You're untouchable. He didn't smile, but something shifted in his expression. Something almost like honesty. You're right. I don't get involved. Then softer, like a confession. But when I saw your name in our acquisition shortlist 6 months ago, I flagged it. Maya stopped cold. What? I told our team to wait, to observe. I wanted to see what you do without being devoured by the market. You impressed me. Her voice lowered. Why not buy me out then? Because I don't want ownership, Maya. I want justice. Silence fell between them. The Bangkok skyline loomed behind him like a crown. Maya crossed her arms again, tightly. So, what? You give me money, protection, power, and I just become your puppet? No, he said calmly. You become the queen. You just stop letting pawns play you. She stared at him. Santi didn't flinch, didn't press. He simply said, you don't have to decide now. But when you do, don't call my assistant. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a thin silver card, and slid it across the table to her. His direct line. I don't make this offer twice. Then he walked to the door. Before he opened it, he paused. You're angry, he said. You think? It's good, he added. That means you're not done fighting. And with that, he left, leaving behind the scent of vetiver cologne, a silver card, and a spark of something Maya couldn't quite name. Not trust, but maybe a beginning. 3 days passed, long ones. Maya didn't eat much, slept less. She stayed holed up in her apartment, surrounded by unopened mail, her laptop blinking with legal threats. refund requests, and press inquiries. Her name was still trending, for the wrong reasons, but the silver card on her coffee table never moved. Santi Ratnakosin's direct line. A door she hadn't touched. Not yet. She didn't want to owe anyone anything, especially not a man like him. But when her last supplier emailed to say they'd been approached by Lana and Crit's new brand, Maya's spine went cold. They weren't done. They were scaling, using her formulas, her distribution lists, and soon, her story. She stared at the card one last time, then picked up the phone. Ratnakosin Private Holdings, 48 hours later. The conference room this time wasn't a skyscraper-draped monument to wealth. It was quieter, sleeker, private. A side wing reserved for family operations. Maya wore a crisp white blouse, no jewelry, just her notebook, a hard pen, and tired eyes that hadn't seen sleep in nearly a week. Santi was already seated. He stood when she entered. "You came," he said. "I came to listen. That was all." He nodded. "Sit." This time she did. On the table were 4 documents, neatly stacked. Her name was on each cover page. "Sole ownership," he began. "Registered under Brown Lotus International. The trademarks are being secured. You'll hold full voting rights, board control, IP retention." She looked at him. "That's a lot of trust for someone who nearly lost their company." "It's not trust," he replied smoothly. "It's control. You need it to rebuild. And I want Crit to see what real structure looks like." Maya scanned the page. "This says I get full brand control, a private manufacturing facility, legal support, and access to your media team." He nodded once. "You'll need crisis management. We can help reset the narrative before their launch gains too much ground." She paused. "And in return?" Santi leaned back, fingers steepled. "I want nothing." Her eyes narrowed. "People like you don't do anything for nothing." "I want justice," he said simply. "That's all." Her voice dropped. "And what if I'm the next scandal you want to clean up?" "You're not." He said it with such calm certainty it stunned her. Maya flipped through the pages again. The terms were airtight. Her name, her power, his resources, but no leverage over her. Her throat tightened. This should have felt like a handout. It didn't. It felt like something terrifying. Freedom. She set her pen down. "I'll sign," she said quietly, "but under one condition." Santi didn't flinch. "Name it." She looked him square in the eye. "No emotional interference." "A beat," he blinked. "Clarify." "No veiled flirtation, no soft glances across tables, no complicated dynamics." She exhaled slowly. "I already lost everything to people I trusted. If I partner with you, it stays business." For a moment, silence filled the room like water in a glass too full. Santi studied her face unreadable. Then, without missing a beat, he said, "Miss Brown, I'm not offering affection. I'm offering a fortress." Maya tilted her head. "What if I don't want a fortress?" "Then build your own." "I'll still fund the bricks." Their eyes held. Neither blinked. Finally, Maya picked up the pen and signed. Each stroke of ink felt like cutting through the past, through betrayal, through fear, through every voice that said she'd never recover. When she finished, she set the pen down slowly. Santi slid a black envelope across the table. "What's this?" "The keycard to your new lab. It's already stocked with everything you listed in your original product specs, plus a few upgrades." She opened it. Inside was a sleek black access card and a printed note. "Brown Lotus Research Pavilion. Sole entry authority, Maya Danielle Brown." Her heart beat a little faster, but not for him, for herself. She stood. So did he. "We good?" she asked. "We're bound," he said. Then, as she walked to the door, he added quietly, "No emotions." Understood. "But when you win, and you will, just know You didn't have to sign anything for me to believe in you." Maya paused at the threshold, just for a second, then kept walking. The Brown Lotus Research Pavilion sat tucked behind a gated lane just outside Bangkok's city center. It wasn't large or flashy, no corporate logos, no glossy signs, just a minimalist white and wood structure surrounded by low hedges and golden orchids. But to Maya, it felt like a miracle, or at least the first sign of one. The first time she swiped the keycard and stepped inside, her breath caught. Light poured through floor-to-ceiling windows onto bamboo floors. The countertops gleamed, industrial mixers, temperature-controlled storage, a scent extraction system, stainless steel shelves lined with clean, untouched amber glass jars. Everything she needed, everything she'd once prayed for, down to the last calibrated pipette. There were no ghosts here, no whispers of betrayal in the walls. Only space to build, to bloom, to begin again. Her first move was subtle. A quiet call to Nu, her former production assistant, the one who had quit just before the collapse, not because she didn't believe in Maya, but because she had sensed the storm coming. Nu answered on the second ring. "You're alive," she said, voice trembling. "I am," Maya replied, "and I have a lab, a real one, no strings, just you, me, and a few jars." Silence. Then, "Where do I show up?" By the end of the week, 3 more returned. Former interns, a part-time copywriter, and a shipping manager who once drove through a monsoon to deliver gift boxes to an influencer. All of them said the same thing. "We didn't stay for Lana. We stayed because of you." Maya never cried in front of them, but she prayed alone in the storage room between shifts, forehead pressed to a shelf, whispering thanks through clenched teeth and shaky breath. The new brand wasn't called Brown Lotus anymore. That name, while still legally hers, felt bruised. She needed something reborn, not reclaimed. She chose melanin and moringa, a nod to her roots, her heritage, her healing. She drafted a manifesto on her first night in the lab, for women of color whose beauty isn't alternative, for skin that doesn't need filters to be flawless, for the black, the brown, the bronze, and the bold. We don't need approval. We need ingredients that see us. She printed it, pinned it to the lab's main corkboard, and whispered, "Amen." Santi didn't show up. Not at first. Instead, things appeared without warning. A fully stocked espresso machine in the break room. Her favorite roast from Chiang Mai. A quiet email from his office. "Let us know if you'd like legal filters for your influencer contracts." A high-tech air purifier installed overnight. No invoice attached. He didn't hover. He didn't micromanage. He just appeared in the gaps. One Friday evening, long after the team had gone home, Maya stayed behind to test an oil-to-milk cleanser formula. She had her sleeves rolled up, curls tied in a silk scarf, lab coat stained with hibiscus extract. She hummed softly, something gospel, something old, and scribbled notes as she stirred. A knock sounded at the glass door. She turned, startled. It was him, Santi. No suit tonight, just a navy shirt rolled at the sleeves, dark slacks, and the same unreadable expression he always wore, except his eyes were softer now, tired, like he'd come from somewhere far harder than here. "I was told you haven't gone home all week," he said as he stepped inside. "Do you track my sleep too?" "No," he said simply. "But your power meter logs say the lights stay on after midnight. Every night." She blinked. "You're monitoring my electricity usage?" "I'm monitoring my investment." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Which one? The cleanser or the woman?" A pause. Then, "Both." She looked away, lips tightening. "We had a deal." "I remember." She went back to stirring. "Then don't complicate things." "I didn't come to complicate. I brought dinner. She glanced up. In his hand, a plain brown paper bag. She didn't need to open it to know what it was. The smell hit her first. Cow soy, northern curry noodle soup. The exact kind she hadn't had since she left Chiang Mai during her college internship. Her voice softened. How did you mentioned it once. In your ingredient origin notes. Page 11. Maya blinked. You read those? I read everything. She looked at him, suddenly unsure how to hold the silence between them. I'm not used to people showing up. He didn't smile, but his gaze didn't waver. I'm not most people. And somehow, that made her more nervous than comforted. She took the bag from him. Thanks, she murmured. He turned to go, but paused near the doorway. Maya. She looked up. I'm not here to be trusted. I'm here to be tested. Then he left. And for the first time in weeks, Maya felt something stir beneath her ribs. Not fear, not grief. Hope, tiny, but real. The press room was smaller than Maya expected. No glitzy stage, no product displays, just a low platform, one branded backdrop, and a sea of neutral-colored suits waiting with cameras and sharpened questions. Exactly how she wanted it. No distractions, no apologies, just the truth. She adjusted the mic. Good afternoon. My name is Maya Brown, founder and CEO of Melanin and Moringa. The room hushed. No one called her co-founder. No one asked where Lana was. And that alone felt like victory. I know why you're here, she said. You want to know if I was the victim of fraud, if I lost my company, if my formulas were stolen. A camera clicked. I'm not here to explain what happened to me, she said slowly, her voice steady, clear. I'm here to explain what I did next. She took a breath. I built again. The press conference streamed live on multiple networks. Her speech was short. 7 minutes. She didn't cry. She didn't throw anyone under the bus. She didn't even name Crit or Lana. But what she did do was own the silence they tried to bury her in. I launched this brand to serve women of color who are often underrepresented in the global beauty space. I still believe in that vision. Betrayal doesn't erase purpose. It refines it. This isn't a comeback. This is my continuation. Behind the scenes, Santi's media team worked like ghosts, pulling strings Maya never saw. Her name quietly resurfaced in editorials across eco-beauty sites. Influencers who once distanced themselves were sent curate boxes of her new line, each wrapped in hand-dyed kente and Thai silk. TikTok clips of her speech went viral. One caption read, "She got stabbed in the back and turned it into a blueprint." Within 48 hours, #Melanin and Moringa trended in 3 countries. Not for scandal, for substance. But not everyone clapped. Comment sections lit up like wildfire. At Glow Goddess 88, she's rebranding because she got caught. At Samui Boy, pretty speech. Let's see the product. At KS Skincare, PR. Where's her business partner? Seems shady. Some believed her, some didn't. But most importantly, people were talking. And Lana and Crit, silent. Not a single statement. No counter-narrative. Not even a comment to press. Which meant one thing. They were watching. That night, Maya stood barefoot in the lab's glass atrium, staring out at the courtyard fountain. The launch had gone better than expected, but the pressure pressed against her ribs like a vice. She was tired of pretending to be okay. Santi arrived without announcement, as usual. Just a knock. Then the quiet click of the door. He didn't speak at first, just walked up beside her and stood silently, hands in his pockets. You leaked the editorials, she said softly. He glanced over. Did I? I recognize your signature. You move quietly, but you always move clean. I prefer results over recognition. Maya turned toward him. Why help me like this? He looked at her. hard, but not unkind, because the world believed a version of you that was never true. I want them to meet the real one. That silenced her. The courtyard lights cast a soft glow across the room, golden against the midnight blue of his shirt. She noticed the scar on his left wrist, faint but deliberate, like something healed but never erased. She spoke before she could stop herself. "What did you lose?" she asked. He blinked. "What?" "You don't move like a man who was born to power. You move like a man who had to bleed for it." A long pause. Then, "My mother?" That one answer held the weight of a locked vault. He didn't elaborate. She didn't ask. Instead, she said, "Thank you for not trying to fix me, just backing me." Santi tilted his head. "I don't want to fix you, Maya. I want to fund the fire." A long, loaded silence stretched between them. Then she whispered, "That's the most dangerous thing you've ever said." He didn't move, didn't touch her, but he stepped a little closer, and for the first time, she didn't back away. The rain came without warning, thin sheets first, gentle and rhythmic, then heavier, like the sky had finally run out of patience. Maya didn't bother to run. She walked slowly, barefoot beneath the wide stone archway of Wat Pathum Wanarayam, a quiet temple nestled between shopping malls and high-rises in central Bangkok. A strange kind of sanctuary, hidden in plain sight. She liked that. It reminded her of herself. The board meeting that morning had been brutal. One of her interim consultants, someone Santi's team had recommended, had questioned her pricing structure, called her target demographic too niche, and suggested she appeal to a more universal audience. She had smiled, stayed composed, but inside something cracked. That's why she came here, not to pray. She wasn't sure she knew how to anymore, but to breathe, to remember. She stepped beneath the pavilion, the scent of sandalwood and rain-soaked earth curling around her like incense. And there, sitting cross-legged on the stone floor near a small prayer altar, was Santi, alone, shoes off, head bowed, hands resting gently on his knees. No suit, no security, just a plain black shirt and loose drawstring pants. Still, unshaken, human. Maya paused, unsure whether to interrupt, but then he looked up. His gaze didn't flicker with surprise or obligation, just quiet recognition. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said, walking slowly across the marble. Santi didn't rise. "Most don't," he said. She lowered herself to the ground beside him, tucking her legs to the side. The rain danced outside the stone pavilion, the only sound between them. "I thought you didn't believe in anything," she said. "I believe in silence," he replied. She smiled faintly. "Silence doesn't heal everything." "No," he agreed, "but it reveals what needs to be healed." A monk passed slowly behind them, head bowed. Neither Maya nor Santi moved. After a moment, she whispered, "I was humiliated today." "I heard." "Of course you did. I didn't intervene." "I noticed." He looked at her now. "I didn't intervene because you didn't need rescue. You needed room to roar." Maya exhaled slowly, her hands clasped in her lap. "Sometimes I don't know if I'm roaring or just bleeding louder than before." Santi didn't answer immediately. His eyes turned back to the altar. "There was a year," he said quietly, "when I disappeared from my family." She glanced sideways. "You? Mr. Control?" He almost smiled. "They wanted me to marry into a political family. It was arranged, efficient, economical. I was obedient until the night before the engagement dinner." "What happened?" "I ran, changed my number, spent 6 months in the north, at a rice farm. I harvested by hand, ate with the workers, slept on the ground. Maya blinked. Why? He stared forward. Because I wanted to be seen, not packaged. Maya's chest tightened. Did it work? No, he said softly. But it taught me what to look for when I see someone else drowning under the expectations of other people's comfort. She fell silent. The rain deepened. Then she whispered, I'm terrified that no matter how much I fight, people will still only see a scandal, or a skin tone, or a slogan. Santi's voice was even. That's not what I see. She turned toward him. Then what do you see? He met her eyes. No flirtation, no smirk, just something steady, almost reverent. A woman who should have burned down the whole system, but chose to build instead. Her throat tightened. She looked away before she could speak. I don't trust you, she murmured. I know. I don't know if I'll ever trust again. He didn't answer immediately, but then he said, Then let me be the man who doesn't demand it, just earns it. Quietly. The romantic tension was thick, but no words crossed the line. No hands reached. They sat there in the stillness. Two broken people who weren't trying to fix each other. Just sit, just breathe, just be. And in that silence, something sacred took root. Not love, but maybe faith. The email came at 7:03 a.m. Subject, press release, new brand launch, Lotus and Light. Maya was halfway through her morning tea when she saw it. Her thumb hovered over the screen, heart already tightening in her chest before she even opened the file. She tapped it once, and then silence. Her body stilled as the sleek PDF loaded. Blush pink background, minimalist gold font. We are proud to announce the official launch of Lotus and Light, a brand rooted in ancient wisdom, natural botanicals, and modern skin science. Co-founded by Lana Wichepong and Krit Wichepong, this brand is committed to clean beauty for diverse skin tones across Asia. Maya set the tea down without drinking it. A photo was attached. Lana stood beside Krit in an all-white pantsuit, arms crossed, glowing under a row of hanging orchids. Her curls were straightened. Her smile was soft but smug. They looked like success. But Maya only saw theft, because the product line, listed at the bottom of the release, read like a carbon copy of her original formulations. Turmeric and Tamanu Glow Serum, Baobab and Bamboo Hydrating Milk, Golden Hibiscus Renewal Balm, every name, every ingredient pairing, even the packaging, glass amber jars with silk thread accents. The same vision they said was too niche. Now they wore it like a crown. Santi walked into the lab 30 minutes later. He didn't speak at first, just held up his phone, screen lit with the same press release. I saw it, Maya said before he could open his mouth. Santi lowered the phone. They filed the trademarks 3 days ago, just under the wire. They knew I was relaunching, she said flatly. They waited until I spoke, to strike. Lotus and Light is already trending. I don't care about trends. Investors do. Maya met his eyes, sharp and unmoved. Let them trend. Let them launch first. Let them run. Santi raised a brow. You're calm. I'm not calm, she said. I'm calculating. Later that day, Maya stood before her whiteboard in the lab, fingers stained with frankincense oil, arms folded. Nu stood beside her. Are you going to say something publicly? No, Maya said. Not yet. But it's so obvious they copied you. I know. So, what's the plan? Maya stared at the board, then slowly uncapped a red marker. At the top, she wrote, Truth speaks when time's up. Then, underneath, Phase 1, retarget ad campaigns. Phase 2, highlight sourcing ethics. Their supply chain can't verify. Phase 3, PR silence. Let others talk. I don't need to shout, she murmured. Their foundation's built on a lie, and lies sink. Nu looked impressed. You're serious? Maya smiled faintly. I didn't come back to play. I came back to win. But it wasn't just the press release. Within 48 hours, influencers began posting PR boxes from Lotus and Light. Paid beauty bloggers compared Maya's old formulas to Lana's fresh twist. A public skincare forum posted side-by-side photos of both brands, asking who copied who. The comments stung. At Sammy Beauty, weren't they best friends? Maybe Maya sold the formulas. At Glow by Grace, I heard Lana left because of creative differences. At Bangkok Skincare Queen, they both seemed shady. It didn't matter that Maya had the trademarks, the lab journals, or the dated screenshots. In the court of public opinion, optics won. And right now, Lana looked innocent. Crit looked polished. And Maya? She looked late. On the third day, she received an invitation. A media gala for Lotus and Light's official debut at one of Bangkok's premier rooftop venues. The card was thick cream paper with gold foil lettering. At the bottom, we'd be honored by your presence. No sender's name. But Maya knew exactly who sent it. She dropped the invitation on her desk like it burned her fingers. They want me to watch, she whispered. Santi, who had just walked in with 2 coffees, set them down slowly. No, he said. They want you to react. She turned toward him. And you want me to sit still? I want you to let the light show their cracks. Not throw stones. She exhaled slowly, emotion simmering under her skin. He walked closer. You already won, Maya. You still own your name, your process, your soul. She blinked. Then why does it still hurt? He didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, because betrayal doesn't lose its sting. Even when you've outgrown the wound. A long pause. Maya looked up at him. I'm going to that gala, she said. But not as their victim. Santi nodded. As what then? Her lips curved, slow and deliberate, as their reminder. The lab felt too quiet. Even with the hum of diffusers and the distant buzz of interns restocking sample jars, Maya felt the weight of silence pressing into her shoulders like a verdict waiting to drop. She stood by the window, arms crossed, watching rain streak against the glass like silver ink. The legal folders from Santi's team sat untouched on the marble countertop behind her. Cease and desist drafts, intellectual property filings, a lawsuit timeline. All ready, all clean, all logical, but it didn't feel right. Are you stalling? Santi asked behind her. Maya didn't turn around. I'm thinking. You've been thinking for 2 days. She faced him then. His suit jacket was off, sleeves rolled up, collar open. Even in frustration, he moved like stone sculpted with discipline. I don't want a courtroom war, she said. You don't have to show up in court. You just have to authorize the action. We can freeze their production within the week. And then what? Be another story about women tearing each other apart? Santi exhaled, controlled. This isn't about optics. It's about protection. I'm not afraid of Lana, Maya said. I'm afraid of what I'll become if I start playing her game with her rules. Your rules lost you everything once. Maya didn't flinch. No. My trust lost me everything. My rules are what's getting it back. They stood in the silence, not as enemies, not even as partners, just 2 people looking at the same fire with different ideas of how to contain it. Santi stepped closer, his voice low. She stole from you, lied to you, humiliated you in front of the world. I know. Then why not crush her? Her answer came like breath through a wound, because I loved her. 4 years ago, it was past midnight. Maya sat cross-legged on the apartment floor, surrounded by mason jars and post-it notes. The scent of hibiscus and frankincense floated through the small space like incense. Lana stumbled out of the bedroom, hair wrapped in a scarf, eyes half closed. "You're still working?" Maya smiled. "Couldn't sleep. My brain wouldn't shut up." Lana sank onto the couch. "Girl, that's called ambition. Or insomnia. Maybe both." Maya held up a small jar. "This is the one. I can feel it." "What is it?" "My mother's balm, reinvented with Thai botanicals. I'm calling it Golden Renewal." Lana took it, unscrewed the lid, and gasped softly. "It smells like home." Maya smiled. "That's the goal." Lana turned the jar over. "You've been formulating this since you were 16? "Yeah." "You're really gonna build this, huh?" "I want to," Maya said quietly, "but I can't do it alone. I don't just need someone who believes in the idea. I need someone who believes in me." Lana looked at her. "Then you've got me." She set the jar down and reached across the floor. "Let's build it together." Present day, Maya blinked hard and turned away from the window. The memory wasn't just painful, it was sacred. And that's what made the betrayal so sharp. Santi stood beside the counter watching her closely. "You think confronting her in public will satisfy you more than winning in court?" he asked. "I don't want satisfaction," she said. "I want accountability." "You can't control how she answers." "No," Maya said, "but I can control how I ask." She opened the top folder of the legal packet and gently removed her signature page. Then she tore it in half. Santi's eyes narrowed. "You're sure?" "I'm not playing this game with paperwork," she said. "I'm playing it with truth. On my terms." He didn't argue. He didn't nod. He simply said, "Then let me know where the stage is." "I'll clear the noise." Her heart twisted. Grateful, anxious, and something else she refused to name. Because he wasn't just reliable, he was constant. And she didn't know what to do with that. That night, Maya sat alone in her apartment, rereading the old sticky note Lana had once written in bold marker. "Heritage heals. Roots remember." A tear slid down her cheek. "You remember just long enough to steal it," she whispered. She picked up her journal and began to write. Not a plan, not a post, not a press statement, but a letter. To Lana. She didn't know if she'd send it, but it started like this. "You had everything you needed to win beside me, but you wanted to win without me. So now I'll show you what it looks like to rise alone. And this time, you don't get to borrow my light." The invitation said black. Maya wore gold. Not soft gold, not champagne, not polite, molten, unapologetic, sunrise after fire gold. The dress hugged her frame like it had been sewn onto her body by grace itself. High neckline, low back, sleeves that shimmered like silk dipped in prayer. Her hair was let loose, natural and deliberate. A pair of small gold studs glinted in her ears. She wasn't here to blend in. She was here to stand out, to remind the room and the industry that she still had breath in her lungs, dignity in her walk, and a name that couldn't be erased. The rooftop terrace of the Narai Grand Hotel was swarming with the who's who of Bangkok's elite beauty, tech, and retail sectors. Crystal chandeliers shimmered under the open sky, violins played somewhere near the garden bar, and journalists floated between tables with recorders disguised as brooches. Maya walked in alone, but every eye found her. Across the terrace, Lana stood draped in icy blue silk, her makeup immaculate, her arm looped through crits. They looked like an editorial ad for victory, a walking lie made beautiful. Crit spotted Maya first. His smile twitched, but only for a second. Then Lana turned, and for a flicker of a moment, her eyes widened, just slightly. Maya didn't blink. She didn't wave. She just walked past them and owned the floor. Maya Brown, a reporter said quickly, trying to catch her near the champagne tower. Is it true that your new line was inspired by your previous... Excuse me, came a voice to her left. Santi. He appeared as if conjured from the rainstorm of the past, tailored in black, crisp as winter air. No tie, collar slightly open, elegant, undeniably powerful. He didn't smile, but he stood beside her and placed his hand gently at the small of her back. Not to control, not to claim, just to say, she's not standing alone. The reporter stammered, Mr. Ratanakosin, we didn't know you were supporting... He looked directly at the man, voice like silk over steel. I don't work with thieves. The words dropped like a stone into the glittering hush around them. A photographer gasped. Crit clenched his jaw. Lana's frozen smile began to melt at the edges. Maya stood motionless, her breath low in her chest, but her chin lifted. And her heart? It was still beating. Later, beneath the golden canopy of string lights, Maya found herself alone at the balcony rail. The city shimmered below, alive and loud. But this moment was still. Santi appeared again, 2 glasses of pomegranate spritz in hand. She accepted one without looking. That was reckless, she said softly. I meant it, he replied. You just called out Thailand's rising skincare brand on camera. I didn't mention a name, she sipped. You didn't need to. Santi leaned against the rail beside her, face turned toward the skyline. They took your house, he said quietly. You rebuilt a cathedral. Maya exhaled. Do you always show up right before I break? He turned to her, gaze steady. No, he said. I show up so you remember you don't have to. Their eyes met. And for once, she didn't look away. Maya didn't cry often, not because she couldn't, but because somewhere along the way, tears had become currency, and the world too often decided what it was worth. But on that night, in a small studio tucked behind the lab, with new filming on an iPhone and soft music humming low in the background, Maya let go. She didn't script it, didn't rehearse, she just spoke, and the camera saw everything. I started this brand with someone I loved like family. We shared food, shared clothes, shared dreams. I handed her my grandmother's balm formula in a glass jar one night, and she said it felt like home. And then one day, she took it. No explanation, no goodbye. Just signatures I never saw and silence I didn't deserve. I lost everything. My name, my savings, my peace. And the worst part? People told me to be graceful, to rise above it. But how do you rise when you've been buried under your own dream? I'm still healing, but I haven't stopped building. The video was never meant to go viral. New had uploaded it to the brand's private YouTube channel, intending to clip quotes for a marketing reel. But overnight, the full 7-minute recording leaked onto a beauty commentary page with 300,000 subscribers. From there, it exploded. Hashtag We Believe Maya. Hashtag Melanin and Moringa. Hashtag She Didn't Deserve This. TikTokers reposted it with stitch reactions. Some crying, others raging, some calmly reading receipts from Lotus and Light's patent filings and noticing inconsistencies. Reddit threads dissected timestamps. Instagram infographics titled, Who Really Created Brown Lotus? Began circulating, drawing comparisons between Maya's original product line and Lana's new one. Down to the dropper shape, one user wrote. Crit has a history of shady, silent investments, another posted, linking a 2-year-old article buried in Thai finance news. This is why women of color protect their own IP like their life depends on it, because it does dear melanin justice. Within days, Lana and Crit's team went into lockdown. Their PR rep released a vague statement about misunderstandings and creative divergence, but no apology, no denial, just fog. and the silence that had once protected them now began to suffocate. Meanwhile, Santi said nothing publicly, but behind the scenes, everything moved. His legal team flagged 3 copyright violations quietly to Thailand's Commerce Ministry. An anonymous report to the Fair Trade Commission flagged Lotus and Light's sourcing inconsistencies, particularly their ethically wildcrafted black seed oil, which Maya had personally helped import from a certified vendor in Ghana 2 years ago. By the end of the week, 2 of Crit's Shell LLCs were under financial review. Maya didn't ask questions. Santi didn't offer details. That was their rhythm. But one night, while she was closing up the lab, he appeared in the hallway holding a bag of sweet mango sticky rice. Maya raised a brow. Is this another nonverbal contract negotiation? He held the bag up. This is sugar. You haven't eaten dinner. Again. She sighed and unlocked the door to her office. Inside, he set the bag on the desk while she sat across from him, bone-tired but grateful. Do you ever regret moving this quietly? She asked. I mean, you could have sued them in your father's name and ended this 2 months ago. Santi leaned back in the chair. I used to think power was about volume. Now I know it's about timing. And what about justice? Justice, he said, unwrapping the mango container. Tastes better when they think they're safe. She smiled despite herself. You're dangerous. I'm patient. And strategic. And slightly offended you said that like it's a red flag. Maya laughed, low and real. Then, after a beat of silence, she said softly, They're unraveling. Santi nodded once. They were never woven well. She looked down. Do you think I'll ever stop grieving who she was to me? He didn't rush the answer. Instead, he said, The version of her you loved was real. It's just not the one who stayed. Maya blinked, then whispered, That's the worst part. Santi nodded. But also the proof you loved with your whole heart. And that's not weakness. That's legacy. She didn't say anything after that. But when he left a few minutes later, she walked him to the door. And for the first time when he touched the small of her back, she didn't flinch. Maya wasn't surprised to see Lana. She was surprised that she came alone. It was just past 9 p.m. The lab was nearly dark, save for the soft glow of the aromatherapy lamp flickering by the front window. Maya was reviewing inventory in the back office when the motion sensor at the door chimed once, soft but sharp enough to break the night's peace. She stepped into the main corridor and stopped. Lana stood inside the glass doors, her figure backlit by moonlight, wrapped in a long white coat, hair pulled into a bun. No press, no entourage, just her, and a folded piece of paper clenched in one trembling hand. Maya didn't speak. She simply unlocked the second door. Lana stepped in, and the past walked in with her. They sat across from each other in the break room. No cameras, no microphones, no crowd to clap. Maya folded her hands on the table. What do you want, Lana? Her voice was even. Lana looked thinner than before, paler. The perfection was still there, but it looked heavier now, like it took more effort to wear. I wasn't going to come, she said softly. You shouldn't have. I know. A long pause. Lana exhaled, staring at her hands. I saw the video of you crying. Maya didn't reply. I didn't expect it to hit me like that. You didn't expect me to bleed? No, Lana whispered. I didn't expect to still care. Maya didn't blink. I didn't come to beg, Lana continued. I know how it looks. It looks like theft, dressed in silk and silence. Lana flinched but nodded. Can I just explain? Maya crossed her arms. Explain what? Exactly? How you rewrote history while I was still sweeping up the ashes of our future? Lana's voice cracked. You always had the light, Maya. Always. I was the best friend, the translator, the co-founder, the other girl. You know how many times people called you the face of the brand, even when I did half the work? You didn't do half the heart, Maya said quietly. That was the difference. I never said I didn't love it, Lana said. I just didn't love disappearing behind you. You disappeared when I needed you most. Lana leaned forward, voice trembling. Do you know what it's like to feel like you're carrying someone else's name on your back and no one sees you underneath it? Crit saw me. He listened. He told me I could do more. Maya's eyes sharpened. Crit told you I was in the way. Lana's silence was her answer. Maya swallowed and finally said what she'd never said aloud. You could have built anything, Lana. You were smart. You were magic. But you wanted what I had, not what you earned. Lana's eyes filled. I was angry. I was loyal. I was afraid you'd leave me behind. Maya looked at her, tears threatening but not falling. You could have told me that, she whispered. You could have said, I'm scared. I would have turned the company upside down to make sure you felt seen. Lana lowered her head. I don't want your forgiveness, she said. I know I don't deserve it. Maya's voice was calm but not cold. Then don't ask for it. Just own it. Lana unfolded the paper in her hands and slid it across the table. Maya glanced down. A signed legal statement. Handwritten. Dated. Admitting that Maya was the sole originator of the initial formulations and branding. That Lana had been influenced by Crit's strategy to overtake Brown Lotus behind her back. This won't undo anything, Lana said, but it's true. Maya folded the paper once, tucked it into her bag without a word. I'm leaving Thailand, Lana said quietly. I've stepped down from the brand. Crit's furious. He'll make it messy. But I'm done. Maya stood. Lana looked up. Does this mean we'll ever... No, Maya said. Gently. Finally. We won't. But I'm not your ghost, Maya said. And I'm not your closure. Tears slid silently down Lana's cheeks. I just wanted you to know. I never stopped loving you. Not really. Maya's voice barely rose above a whisper. Then you should have loved me louder than your resentment. She walked to the door and held it open. Lana stood slowly. As she passed through, she paused, but Maya didn't reach for her. Not this time, not again. That night, Maya lit a single white candle in the lab. She placed it by the first product sample she had ever created, the turmeric balm, still sealed in its original jar. She whispered a name to herself, not Lana's, her own. Maya Danielle Brown, founder, visionary, survivor. And when she turned off the lights, she didn't feel alone. She felt free. The night came just before dawn. Maya was already awake, wrapped in a thick cardigan, barefoot in her lab's tiny tea nook, watching the steam curl from her favorite clay mug. She hadn't slept. Not after Lana's confession. Not after reading the legal statement again. Her name spelled out in Lana's own careful handwriting. She knew who she was now. But she hadn't decided who she would become. Another knock. Soft, steady. She opened the door. Santi, wearing a charcoal sweater, black trousers, and, somehow, a gentleness in his eyes that made her heart ache. I made tea, she said, stepping aside. He entered silently. The air between them was warm, but laced with something unspoken. They sat by the large window overlooking the courtyard garden. The first hints of daylight spilled across the sky in brushstrokes of plum and gray-blue. Neither spoke for a long moment. Then, Santi reached into the inner pocket of his coat and pulled out a small black envelope. He didn't offer it immediately. He set it on the table between them, like a question waiting for an answer. What's this? Maya asked. Santi looked at her, not with command, but with calm certainty. It's not a contract, not a merger, not a marriage proposal. A corner of her mouth twitched. You're narrowing things down. It's an opportunity, he said, to breathe. Maya stared at him, waiting. I've been negotiating quietly for weeks, he continued. Crit's current investor, The real engine behind Lotus and Light has been trying to exit. Bad PR, legal scrutiny, falling stocks. You want to buy him out? I already did. Maya blinked. Santi leaned forward, voice steady. I can dismantle the entire shell structure by noon. Shut down the trademark. Freeze production. Force Crit into retreat. He paused, then softly, let me give you peace. Not ownership, not marriage. Peace. Maya stared at the envelope. Inside, she knew, was power. Finality, silence. A clean win. But not a clean fight. She exhaled slowly. You did this for me? I did it because I could. Because they took something from you that no one had the right to. I'm not trying to control the outcome, Maya. I just want to give you a chance to live without carrying the war. She looked down at her hands. Hands that had mixed balm and borrowed kitchens. Hands that once trembled reading a betrayal email. Hands that now stirred courage into something bigger than survival. I can't take it, she said quietly. Santi didn't move. I appreciate it, she added. Truly. But if I win, I need it to be clean. I need it to be mine. Not because you cleared the battlefield for me. His jaw tensed, but his eyes never left hers. You'd still win. No, she whispered. I'd survive. And people would still say I didn't do it on my own. Santi leaned back, resting his arm on the chair beside him. You are the most stubborn woman I've ever met, she smiled. Says the man who bought a company before sunrise. They both chuckled softly, then silence again. But this one wasn't heavy. It was intimate, shared. Maya reached for the envelope, turned it over once, then slid it back to him. Santi nodded and tucked it away. I'm still going to protect you, he said, whether you take my help or not. I know. Their eyes locked. And then she said it. But you already gave me peace, Santi. The day you stopped trying to save me and just stood beside me. His throat moved once, but he said nothing. She rose, finished her tea, and walked to the window. Sunlight broke across the trees, golden and soft, like a promise whispered through clouds. Behind her, Santi stood, and before he left, he said only one thing. When you're ready to win differently, I'll still be here. Then he left. No ring, no empire, just presence. And that, Maya thought, was the rarest proposal of all. The cursor blinked. Once, twice, endlessly. Maya sat in her apartment, wrapped in a robe, legs tucked beneath her, laptop open on the coffee table. Her skin was bare. No makeup, no statement earrings, just her and the quiet hum of the city waking up outside her window. It had been 2 weeks since the gala, 10 days since Lana's confession, 4 days since she turned down Santi's offer to crush her enemies without blinking. And this morning, this gray, slow, clear-eyed morning, Maya opened a blank document and began typing something she hadn't written in a long time. A letter, not for the press, not for PR, not for defense. This one was for them. To every Black woman who's ever had her brilliance borrowed, I see you. I see how they applaud your ideas once someone else wears your skin. How they say you're too much when you're clear, and not enough when you're kind. I see how they call your voice a liability, your skin a niche, your truth emotional. I've spent years trying to prove I belonged in rooms I designed from scratch. I've tried to be digestible, respectable, polished, and unproblematic. I built my first brand from my mother's bomb recipe and my grandmother's hands. And still, I was asked, who really made this? I've been betrayed by people I loved, silenced by people I trusted, and doubted by people who cheered me on, until they saw me rising higher than they planned for me. But this letter isn't about them. This is me saying, I'm done building to prove a point. I will no longer craft my legacy around the shape of someone else's failure. From this moment forward, I build for you. For the woman watching from a small studio, wondering if her story matters. For the girl scribbling formulas in a kitchen, praying for a sign. For the quiet powerhouse who's tired of fighting to be heard. Your voice isn't too loud, your dream isn't too wild, and your vision doesn't need permission. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back to remember who I was before the world tried to steal her. So here's my vow. I will build loudly, boldly, and this time, not alone. With love, Maya Danielle Brown, founder of Melanin and Moringa. She hit post before she could talk herself out of it. And then she closed the laptop, sat in the stillness, and wept. Not because she was broken, because she wasn't. Not anymore. By noon, the letter had reached every corner of the internet where women like her gathered, shared in group chats, posted in forums, printed out and pinned to mirrors in hair salons and dorm rooms and co-working spaces. At Black Women in Business, Maya Brown didn't just speak, she freed us. At True Melanin Glow, we're done being polite. We're building like queens. At The Curl Therapist, read this out loud, feel every word. And then came a message from Santi. No emojis, no clever phrasing, just 4 words. Thank you for leading. That night, Maya lit a candle on her windowsill. No special scent, no branded packaging, just a plain, homemade soy candle. The kind she used to make before anyone knew her name. She watched the flame flicker, then smiled to herself. You're not a product, she whispered. You're a movement. And outside, the wind shifted, like something old had ended and something timeless had just begun. The courtroom smelled like paper and polish. Maya sat straight in the front row, her hands clasped neatly in her lap, her attorney to her right, Santi 2 rows behind her, silent, still, sharp in a dark navy suit. She didn't look back at him. She didn't need to. His presence was like the weight of a steady wall, unmoving, unquestioning. On the opposite side of the room, Lana sat next to Crit. She wore gray, a soft, dull gray that blended into the wooden benches like she didn't want to be seen. Crit looked paler than usual. His tie was slightly crooked, his confidence long gone. The judge, a middle-aged Thai woman with piercing eyes and a voice like cold iron, reviewed the ruling. Everyone already knew the outcome, but hearing it aloud, that mattered. In the matter of intellectual property infringement and unlawful misappropriation of proprietary product formulations, the court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Ms. Maya Danielle Brown. The room held its breath. The judge continued, the defendants are hereby ordered to immediately cease all operations under the brand Lotus and Light, issue a formal public statement of acknowledgement, and pay damages in the amount of... Maya's lawyer stood abruptly. Your Honor, if I may, she said. All eyes turned to Maya, who slowly rose to her feet. I'd like to modify my claim. The judge raised an eyebrow. Miss Brown? Maya stepped forward, her voice steady. I'm waiving the majority of the financial damages. A quiet gasp rippled through the gallery. Crit shifted. The judge's pen paused mid-scratch. You're declining monetary compensation? I'm declining the idea that money fixes everything, Maya replied calmly. I don't need their money. I need their truth. She turned to Lana and Crit, who stared back, uncertain now, unsure how this story would end. I'm asking instead, Maya continued, for a signed public acknowledgement, stating that I, Maya Danielle Brown, am the originator of the Brown Lotus formulations, branding, and foundational mission, and that the brand Lotus and Light was developed by misappropriating that intellectual property without my knowledge or consent. Silence. Then she added, let the record show what dignity looks like. Let women who look like me see that justice isn't about revenge. It's about naming what was taken and walking away without chains. The judge nodded once, firmly. So ordered. Outside, the sun poured across the courthouse steps like a spotlight. Reporters swarmed. Cameras clicked. But Maya didn't stop to speak. She descended the stairs slowly, gracefully, until Santi stepped beside her. He didn't say congratulations. He didn't say, I told you so. He just offered her his hand, not to lead her, not to pull her, just to walk with her. She took it. They sat beneath a tree in the garden across from the courthouse. She had slipped off her heels, her toes pressed into the grass. I thought it would feel louder, she said. Santi handed her a bottle of water. Louder? The wind. He tilted his head. It was quiet, because it didn't need applause. She took a sip. People are going to say I was too soft, that I should have taken every penny. You weren't soft, he said. You were exact. They sat in silence for a beat. Then Maya whispered, I didn't need to bankrupt them. I just needed to stop bleeding. Santi nodded. That's how you know you healed. She turned to look at him. I'm not sure what happens now. You keep building. And you? He hesitated, then said softly, I'll be wherever peace is being planted. Their eyes met, and Maya didn't look away. Krabi was golden. Not just the water, not just the sky, but the air itself, warm and soft, like it had been woven from silk and slow forgiveness. Maya stood barefoot on the wooden deck of Ratanakosin's private beachfront villa, a linen wrap tied around her waist, her hair loose and soft, touched by the breeze. The sun was setting, low and glowing, casting long amber streaks across the waves, and behind her, the sliding glass door opened. She didn't turn, but she felt him. Santi stepped quietly to her side, a carved wooden box in his hands. No bow, no jewelry box glint, just smooth dark wood, simple and elegant, like everything he did. I didn't expect a gift, she said softly. I don't give gifts, he replied. I give tools. She smiled at that, still not turning toward him. And what kind of tool fits in a box this small? He held it out. She finally turned and opened it. Inside, nestled in a bed of rice paper, was a hand-carved wooden stamp, the kind used by artisans and founders across Thailand to seal official documents, brand goods, or sign legacy contracts. But this one was hers. Carved into the smooth, round surface, in flawless Thai calligraphy, was her name. Maya Braun, Maya Brown, her real name, her full name, claimed, engraved. Tears stung behind her eyes before she could stop them. She looked up at him. You remembered the spelling? Santi nodded. I made sure the calligrapher got the tone marks right. Your name deserves to be pronounced correctly. Everywhere. She exhaled shakily, emotion rising in her throat like tide water. He spoke again, soft, but sure. Build it your way, but stamp it with your name. It hit her harder than any proposal, because he wasn't offering her a ring. He was offering her the right to remain herself, to be seen, to be named, to be unchanged. I've never had anything like this, she whispered. You've always had it, he said gently. I just made it visible. She stepped closer. Why do you always show up with what I didn't know I needed? He held her gaze. Because I've been watching. Not waiting to lead. Just waiting to walk beside. And in that golden hour, beneath the Krabi sky, Maya did something she hadn't done in years. She reached forward, took his hand, and rested her head on his chest. No fireworks, no proposal, just breath and trust and peace. She whispered, This isn't a fairy tale. No, Santi said. It's a foundation. Later, as the moon rose, Maya sat on the deck alone with a journal in her lap and the stamp beside her. She opened to a blank page and pressed it into the paper. Her name, bold, in wood and ink. Then, beneath it, she wrote, "This isn't the end of the story. It's the part where I stop asking permission and start building empires." The night air in Krabi smelled like jasmine and salt. The villa was quiet. The waves hushed like they were holding their breath. Maya sat alone on the stone bench near the garden path, her eyes fixed on the moonlit sea. A breeze danced through the palms, and her silk robe fluttered around her legs like water-made fabric. Behind her, the soft sliding of a door. Footsteps. Then stillness. Santi didn't sit right away. He stood behind her, giving her space, as he always did. She didn't look back, not yet. Instead, she asked the question that had lived in her chest like a stone since the first moment he stepped into her life and refused to leave. "Why did you help me?" Silence. Then the bench shifted as he finally sat beside her, leaving a careful space between them. His voice was low, even. "You already know." "No," she said. "I know what you did. I don't know why." Santi exhaled through his nose, gazing out at the horizon. The moon glowed in the water like a truth too deep to hold in your hands. Then softly, "Because I didn't see a woman who needed saving." She turned to him. He didn't look at her. "I saw a woman who was meant to be chosen." Maya's breath caught. "And they didn't choose you," he said, voice steady. "Not the industry, not the investors, not even the friend who promised to build beside you." Now he turned to face her, eyes dark and full of something she wasn't ready for, but no longer afraid of. "But I will." The words weren't fireworks. They were earthquakes, silent and slow and shifting the foundation beneath her ribs. "You barely knew me," she whispered. "I watched you speak at a startup event 2 years ago," he said. "You pitched clean beauty in 3 languages. The room didn't see it, but I did. The clarity, the fire." She blinked. "You never told me that." "I didn't think you'd believe it back then." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fingers laced. "I come from a world where love is transaction, where alliances are strategic, where women are chosen for family names, not legacies." He looked at her now, fully. "And then I met a woman who didn't ask for love, but demanded respect." Maya's throat tightened. Her voice cracked. "So what is this? Some noble project?" "No," he said firmly. "You're not a project. You're a standard." She let the tears come this time. Not because she was broken, but because she wasn't hiding anymore. "I've spent so long being strong," she said. "I forgot what it felt like to be wanted, without being useful, without being a symbol." Santi didn't move, but his voice softened. "Then let me say it clearly." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. Not a ring. A folded slip of paper. He handed it to her. She unfolded it slowly. It was a photo, blurry. A candid screenshot from the startup pitch she'd given 2 years ago. Her arms mid-gesture, curls wild, face alight with belief. "I kept it," he said, "even when you didn't remember being there. Because I knew someday I'd need to remind you of the woman you were before they tried to write you out of your own story." Maya stared at the photo, then looked at him. And for the first time, she didn't just see the man who backed her, protected her, respected her. She saw the man who chose her, not for performance, not for partnership, but because somewhere deep down, when the world refused to, he believed. Maya leaned in then, slow, steady, her hand reaching for his. Fingers touched, warmed, and in the hush of that moonlit garden, she whispered, "Then I guess it's time I choose you too." The car ride was quiet, not tense, not awkward, just full of something waiting to be spoken. Maya glanced at Santi as they curved along a winding hill just outside Chiang Mai. He had one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the leather console. He looked calm, unreadable as always, but she knew better now, knew how much silence he wore like armor, knew how deeply he felt, even when he said nothing. "You're really not going to tell me where we're going?" she asked. "No," he said. "Is this a trap?" He glanced over. "Would I do that?" "Yes," she said. "But you do it beautifully." A smile ghosted across his lips. They pulled into the overgrown gates of an old resort compound just as the sun was beginning to set. The archway still held the original wooden signage, Ratanakosin Eco Retreat, weathered but strong. Maya stepped out slowly, the scent of teak wood and rain in the air. Trees rustled with memory. Flowers she didn't know the names of swayed gently in the breeze. "This was yours?" she asked. "It was abandoned after my grandfather passed. My father let it rot." Maya looked around. "You didn't." He led her down a stone path, past empty cottages and moss-covered fountains. At the far end of the resort stood a modern 2-story building nestled between 2 banyan trees. Cream walls, dark wooden trim, a tiled roof, minimalist, elegant, humble. There was no name on it. Not until she reached the door. A small brass plate beside the frame read, "Brown House." Her breath caught. "Santi." He stepped forward and unlocked the door, then stepped aside. "You should go in first." Inside was not a house. It was a sanctuary. On the left, a fully equipped lab, shelves lined with ingredients sourced from Africa and Southeast Asia, temperature-controlled fridges, blenders, microscopes, everything she'd ever needed to create freely. On the right, a sunlit library, floor-to-ceiling windows, a leather reading chair, a teak desk with an old-school inkwell, and a handwritten note that read, "Build where no one can erase you." And in the back corner, a small prayer room, matte floors, soft cushions, a cross carved into the wood above a narrow shelf that held an open Bible. Psalm 126 was underlined. "Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy." Maya stood in the center of the space, arms wrapped around herself. The tears came without permission. Not because it was too much, but because it was finally enough. Santi walked in slowly, held out a small brass key. He didn't offer it like a gift. He offered it like a question. "Only you decide when this becomes yours." She stared at the key, trembling slightly, then looked up. "I don't need ownership," she whispered. "I just need to know. It was built with me in mind." He nodded. "Every inch." She took the key, closed her fingers around it, and stepped forward, not into his arms, not into a role, but into the space her presence had shaped. That night, after the tour, Maya sat barefoot in the prayer room with her journal open on her lap and Santi beside her, silent and steady. She turned to him. "You never tried to tame me," she said. He looked at her. "You're not fire to be tamed. You're light to be followed." She reached over, took his hand, and finally said what had lived in her chest since the day he first stood beside her in silence and let the world look. "Then let me lead with you." He didn't answer with words. He just pulled her gently into his arms. And under the roof of Brown House, Maya didn't become someone new. She became more of who she'd always been. The auditorium buzzed with soft chatter, camera clicks, and the rustle of pressed linen and nervous dreams. Rows of women, young, bold, bright-eyed, sat in seats marked with gold foil envelopes. Each envelope held a name, a vision statement, and an invitation. Today was the official launch of the Maya Brown Foundation for Women of Vision, a scholarship and mentorship program for underrepresented women across Asia working in sustainable beauty, ethical commerce, and wellness innovation. But this wasn't a branding event. It was a promise kept. Maya stood backstage in a tailored ochre pantsuit, her curls let loose. In her hand was the final speech draft. She didn't need it. She'd memorized every word, not on purpose, but because it had been written in her since the day she was betrayed and chose not to break. Santi stood nearby, quiet and steady. No cameras on him, just his eyes on her. "You ready?" he asked. She took a breath. "I was born ready. I just had to remember." He smiled, just a little, and kissed the top of her hand. "Then go remind the world." Maya stepped into the light, applause rising like warm thunder. She smiled, not for approval, but because it felt good to breathe in a room that wasn't trying to shrink her. She walked to the podium, adjusted the mic, and looked out over the sea of faces, then began. "They say greatness is born, but sometimes it's betrayed into being." The room fell silent. "Years ago, I had everything taken from me. My company, my trust, my peace, and I was told by some to be graceful, to rebuild quietly, to keep my hurt in the shadows. But I'm not here because I rebuilt in the dark. I'm here because I chose to build again, in the open, loudly, publicly, and most of all, together." She paused. "This scholarship isn't about me. It's about you, the women who've been told your ideas are too specific, your audience too small, your accent too heavy, your beauty too bold. You are not a risk. You are a revelation." Applause, real, rising, sustained. And in the middle row, near the aisle, a familiar face. Lana, wearing a simple cream blouse, hair pinned back, no camera crew, no entourage, just there. Her face was solemn, not bitter, not proud, just present. Their eyes met and held. Maya's smile didn't falter, but something behind it softened. She continued her speech without pause, but in her mind a quiet sentence formed. "You showed up. That doesn't erase what happened, but it's a beginning." After the ceremony, Lana didn't approach. She lingered near the back while guests swarmed Maya. Scholars hugging her, media asking for interviews, donors shaking her hand. But Maya saw her standing by the far column, still, waiting. Later, once the crowd thinned, Maya walked over, alone. They stood under a hanging tapestry that read, "Build loudly, build boldly, never alone." Lana's voice was soft. "Congratulations." "Thank you." Lana held out a small envelope. "A donation. I know it's small, but..." Maya raised a hand gently. "I didn't do this for you." "I know." A beat passed. Then Lana said quietly, "You became everything we dreamed of." "No," Maya replied. "I became everything I believed I could be, even when no one else did." Lana nodded. "I'm sorry." Again, Maya studied her face, the woman who once shared her formulas, her faith, her future, then finally said, "I forgive you, Lana. But I won't forget. Forgetting erases the lesson. And I built this with too much pain to let the memory go cheap." Lana's eyes welled. She nodded once, didn't ask for more, didn't linger, just placed the envelope on the donation table and walked out. Later that night, Maya sat in the Brown House prayer room, barefoot, wrapped in a shawl, fingers pressed to the open Bible on her lap. Psalm 147, verse 3. "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." She whispered it like a benediction. Santi entered quietly, holding a steaming cup of ginger tea. He set it beside her and sat on the floor. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied. "We did." He chuckled. "I didn't do anything. You stood beside me when I was too proud to say I needed anyone." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small wooden stamp. Her name, still smooth, still hers. She pressed it into her palm, then looked at him. "This wasn't the life I asked for, Santi, but it's the one God trusted me to build." He nodded. "And you built it beautifully." She leaned into him, rested her head on his shoulder. Outside, the wind stirred through the trees, and for the first time in her life, Maya Brown didn't feel like she was beginning again. She felt like she had arrived. The beach was quiet, save for the tide. Krabi's horizon stretched wide and gold, the sun sinking low in its last hour of light. Palm trees leaned lazily into the breeze, and the air smelled of salt and warm sand. The world was soft here, unlike the boardrooms, courtrooms, and spotlights that had tried to define her. Maya walked barefoot along the shoreline, the hem of her linen dress brushing her ankles. The water lapped at her feet, warm and steady. Beside her, Santi matched her pace, jacket off, sleeves rolled, his silence as sure as the waves. They had been walking for minutes without speaking, but this time it wasn't avoidance. It was peace. Finally, she stopped, stared out over the ocean as though her reflection lived somewhere in the horizon. "Do you know what the hardest part was?" she asked, her voice low. Santi turned toward her. "What?" "Not losing the company, not the betrayal, not even the lawsuits," she exhaled. "The hardest part was convincing myself I was still worthy of love when the people who claimed to love me most left me bleeding." Santi didn't move closer. He didn't reach for her. He just stood, listened, waited. "And then you showed up," Maya said, her throat tight. "Not to fix me, not to sweep me into some story where I didn't belong. You just stood there, again and again, until I couldn't ignore it anymore." She finally turned to face him. The breeze tugged at her curls. Her eyes glistened, but steady. "I ignored you many times," she whispered, "because I didn't want to need you." "You don't," he said softly. "That's why I'm here." Her lips curved faintly, trembling. "But I want you." The words broke something open. Not fireworks, not applause. Something quieter, stronger. A soft yes that echoed in both of them. Santi stepped forward then, slow and deliberate. The tide washed over their feet as he reached for her hand, his voice low but sure. "I never wanted your company, Maya. I wanted your heart." Her fingers tightened around his. She smiled through the tears now, eyes locked on his. "You didn't steal it. You earned it." He drew in a breath like a man who had been holding it for years. And then finally, he pulled her into his arms. Not a rescue, not a claim, just an embrace that felt like home. They stood there, swaying with the tide. And when they began walking again, hand in hand, the sky painted them in strokes of lavender and gold. No longer haunted by betrayal, no longer burdened by fear. Just a woman and a man, walking the long shoreline of love. Not rushed, not forced, but chosen together. 1 year later, the Bangkok skyline glittered with neon and glass. Brown Lotus headquarters stood at its center, a building of glass and steel, but softened with lush greenery on every balcony, designed to look less like a fortress and more like a garden. Inside, on the 12th floor, Maya Brown sat at her desk, reviewing a quarterly report. Numbers that once seemed like fragile lifelines now stretched boldly across continents. Brown Lotus wasn't just back. It was international. Distribution hubs in Seoul and Nairobi, partnerships in London, a feature in Vogue India, and last month, the cover of Forbes Asia, the woman who redefined beauty and power. Maya had smiled when she saw it, but not because of the title. She smiled because she finally recognized the woman staring back. Confident, whole, free. The office door opened with a soft click. Santi stepped in. No announcement, no performance. Just his usual quiet presence, carrying 2 coffees. He set one beside her without a word. "Thank you," Maya murmured. "You've been at it since 6, he said, scanning the desk. "You'll burn out your own empire at this pace." She smirked. "And you'll still show up with coffee when I do." "Always," he replied. It wasn't a grand romance in public. He didn't drape himself over her, didn't insist on being seen as part of her empire. He was simply there, always beside her, never in front, and she loved him for it. On her desk, among the contracts and prototypes, sat a small photo frame. Visitors often overlooked it, but Maya never did. It wasn't a glossy press shot or a romantic portrait. It was a simple piece of cream paper, hand-lettered in gold ink, chosen, not broken. She stared at it for a moment, her heart warming. Santi followed her gaze. "You still keep it front and center." "Because it's the truth," she said softly. "The reminder I never knew I needed." He reached out and touched her hand briefly, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "You know," he said, voice low, "I never cared whether you took my name." "I know," she replied, smiling faintly. "I only wanted you to know," he added, eyes steady on hers, "that being with me never meant losing yourself." Her throat tightened. She squeezed his hand back. "And I only wanted you to know," she whispered, "that I didn't just survive. I became." That evening, long after the office emptied, Maya and Santi left hand in hand. They didn't need fanfare or headlines. The world might remember her as a CEO, a visionary, a cover star. But walking into the warm Bangkok night with the man who chose her quietly, consistently, and without condition, Maya remembered herself as something greater, not broken, not rescued, not erased, chosen, always. The end. And that was Maya Brown's story, from betrayal to building something greater than revenge. She wasn't broken, she was chosen, and sometimes that's the real victory. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you powerful AMBW dramas that inspire, heal, and remind us. You can always begin again. Until the next story, walk boldly.